All right, everybody. Don't know if you can hear me well. Um, I am using my old headset. I sent my roads in to be repaired. So what I want to do is I took a look through the Genestealer Cults PDF, and I wanted to discuss it and continue to look at it and maybe learn some things on stream. So just as some background, I always wanted to play an army like Genestealer Cults. Um, I loved the 9th edition book. It was so fun for me. I had to play a lot of games just to get a grasp on how the army played, how it worked. Um, I played Rusted Claw. They were the mechanized infantry um, kind of cult, and they had a spell that gave improved rend by 1, and they kind of got killed by Armor of Contempt. Armor of Contempt actually made it so the spell didn't do anything anymore. Because it was kind of funny, because Genestealer cults had extraordinarily high rend on a lot of units. It didn't matter most of the time. Most of the stuff had 3+, 4+, and vulnerable. So it was like 1 rend did the trick. But I was in a silly position where it's like either Armor of Contempt did nothing because I had -3, -4 rend, or I only had -1 and Armor of Contempt literally completely negated my rend. At the time, I was pretty much just playing against Tau, Tyranids, and Space Marines, and Sisters of Battle, and it kind of turned into a bad experience. I never really had good games against the Tau. Some of that's just luck based, but some of it's just Tau was a very strong army at the time. So I am still going to give Genestealer Cults a shot in 10th edition. My other armies are Dark Eldar. I played Dark Eldar since they came out in 3rd edition 40k. And Chaos Space Marines was my first army, and that again was also in 3rd edition 40k. Usually I'll start an edition out with Chaos Space Marines. They're usually not bad at the start of an edition, and they're more forgiving than Dark Eldar. Then I move on to Dark Eldar when I feel comfortable with the edition. I haven't played Dark Eldar really at all in 8th or 9th because I just kind of got bored of the way they played. Played a lot of Chaos. I played a lot of Chaos Demons. And in 9th, I almost exclusively played Genestealer Cults when they came out. Like I say, I loved them. So let's get on with it. I went through the buffs, and actually, I think before I start, we don't have the points right now. So I cannot say if anything is good or bad. It's impossible to say. I might say X unit's amazing. Turns out it's 1,000 points, and it's unplayable. Not amazing now, is it? Or I might say Unit X is terrible. Comes out, and it's a 30-point unit or something like that. Suddenly, it's amazing. So I'm just going to look at kind of like the buff potential of some of this stuff and how it works. So we'll start out from my initial glance. I'm not exactly happy with how Genestealer Cults is looking right now. They're kind of like a deep strike assault army, but they literally have no way to get into close combat. The only buff they have to getting into close combat, army-wide, unless I missed something big, is just a command reroll to reroll your charge. And that's kind of bad news to me because it's still very, very easy to kill a lot of these guys. And we're an infantry-heavy army, and there's a lot of devastating wounds, anti-infantry stuff out there. The reason why that's such a powerful combo, if you don't know, is the anti-keyword doesn't just like wound on, you know, the stated value, say 2+, it does a critical wound on a 2+. So what it means is currently, let's say you have anti-infantry 2+ devastating wounds. Every 2+ to wound you roll is also a mortal wound. So if I have a special bolter, let's say, that has anti-infantry 2+ devastating wounds, let's say I can re-roll everything, you know, and I'm throwing 30 shots, I'm probably going to put out 15, 20 mortal wounds. You know, so that synergy is scary for a melee army, but also the fact that we have to deep strike in and make a 9-inch charge. That to me looks really crummy. Like I say, there's just, you just have to just do a flat roll and hope you hit that 9 inches. I don't know. So the other half of that is you can go mechanized, which I've got no problem with. I think trucks are good right now. But that can certainly help, is to go mechanized and then go assault. But Genestealer Cults is still a very tradey kind of army. You know, whatever you send out is certainly going to die. I think there is some close combat power in this list, and like I say, I think trucks are good. I think rock grinders still look good. I don't know how it's going to fall together with the points, but we'll see. I think our buff game is actually very weak, and I think we've turned into kind of a real crappy undead army. But I'll go through the rules and talk about the type of buffs we get after we go over the initial rules. Okay, so let's get started. So we've got Brood Brothers. So we can take some Astra Militarum. We just can't take Ogren, Ratlings, Epic Heroes, obviously. Tempestus, so the Scions, and I think there might be even some Stormtroopers that fall in that. Commissar, Preachers. I feel like we should be able to get Preachers. They'd be corrupted. Engine Seers, Servitors, and Aircraft. Makes sense. That means we get most of the vehicles and infantry regiments. And also, this is very important. These guys are going to be Genestealer cults. All right. They're going to get the Genestealer cult rule. Many of our buffs still affect Genestealer cults. So one of the things I want to make note of is buffs that will help guard. Because the things I think will help the guard are potentially a Jackal Alphys. Gives you some rerolls if it hits a target. I think those are Genestealer Cults units. I think some of our stratagems could heavily benefit the Imperial Guard. And I think there's something else. I think Achilles Ridge Runners give +1 rend. But we'll look more closely at that as we get to the units. I'll make a note. Hopefully I don't forget. And this seems like a decent amount of points. I don't really know how big an incursion. I think incursion's 1,000. Strike Force is, I thought 2,000. Onslaught was higher than that. Onslaught might actually be 2,000. I know they made a bigger board size too, but I don't really know what points that is. It could be in the rules at the end. No Astra Militarum unit can be your Warlord, but I don't think that matters. what I think is important is they become Genestealer cults units. Okay. So, call to ambush. So, if your army is Genestealer cults, each time a unit with this ability is destroyed, so no Astra Militarum, because none of them will have cult ambush, roll a d6. On a 4+, you place an ambush marker anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy. You add +3 if it's a battle line unit, which means that battle line always come back, because 1 + 3 is 4. So if an enemy model ends any type of move within 9 inches of the marker, that marker is removed from the battlefield. At the end of the reinforcement step of your opponent's next movement phase, for each cult ambush marker that is still on the battlefield, you may select one unit from your army that is cult ambush and set up that destroyed unit using Deep Strike, containing all of its models with their full wounds remaining, and with at least one of those touching an ambush marker. Okay, characters never come back. So one thing to keep in mind is bikes also come back, but they must be within 6 inches of a table edge. They're not allowed to just pop out from the ground. They have to be within 6 inches of the table edge and touching an ambush marker. So first off, I think this ability is extraordinarily weak. You lose a lot of units as Genestealer cults, especially with some of the rules we're getting. But think about this. Your unit dies at, your turn 2. It comes back on the enemy movement phase of turn 3. That unit will be set up in the shooting phase if it wasn't just removed from play because the enemy approached it. I think it's absolutely a weak ability. You have to roll for most units. 50% they'll even get a chance. Battle line's coming back, obviously. You're probably going to spam out battle line. But it doesn't say there's any restriction to vehicles either. Well, actually, no. We got to look to see if vehicles have cult ambush. I don't think they do. Let me backpedal that. I want to check specifically for ridge runners. I'd be interested to see if ridge runners get it. Like I say, the only vehicle-ish thing I know is bikes get it, and they need to be within 6 inches. But I got to tell you, it is extremely easy to get within 9 inches of a point on the battlefield with how small these boards are. I think an opponent would have no time cleaning your markers off the table. Second, I think that they might realize that it could be to their advantage to just let a unit come in. Just set up so that when that unit comes in, it's just set up to be killed. Maybe there's objectives that score them victory points for killing units. Maybe they get some kind of buff for having destroyed an enemy unit. So it's just, I don't know. I'm not excited about it. The silver lining is it's pretty manipulatable. I think once a unit is in ambush, it's in ambush forever. I don't think it ever comes out of ambush. What that means is, let's say, aberrants. I roll a 4+ when my aberrants die. They're in ambush. I set up a marker. That marker is not an aberrant's marker. It's just a cult ambush marker. Let's say I lose 2 battle line units also. I'll put down 3 cult ambush markers. As long as at least one of them is still on the table in the enemy's reinforcement phase, I could bring back the aberrants on that one, or I could bring back the aberrants on any of the 3. Or I honestly think that It's just, yeah, I honestly think that if the enemy clears all 3 of them, let's say, on his turn, I could potentially bring those aberrants back the next turn if I get more ambush markers. You know, if I do happen to get a 4+ for a non-battle line unit, then the dead battle line are just potentially other spots for the ambush markers to come out. And they're going to be getting set up in ambush, although it's on the enemy's turn, so I don't think they're going to benefit from the setup. We'll look at that in a moment. So like I say, I think this is a real weak ability, and it scares me because it's gonna... I think the designers think it's really powerful, and people on the internet seem to be crapping the bed over it, but I gotta tell you, I don't think much of it. I know how hard it was just to deep strike. It's hard enough just to deep strike on these little tables, let alone leave a marker for a freaking round and a half. I mean, you got to think your enemy kills a unit top of round 2. You put a marker down. It's your turn. You get no benefit from it. That marker is just sitting there doing nothing. Then the top of round 3, if they haven't run over all of your markers, you set up a unit, and it's probably going to be in a bad spot. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I say, these tables are very small, and I don't think it's going to be hard to... I think it's going to be very hard to get a good spot for them. All right, so that leads me... Oh, and they're 32 millimeters. I'm sure a lot of Genestealer players will be annoyed about that because our blip markers are 20 or 25. So we need to make 32 millimeter bases for these stupid things. We're probably going to have a lot of blank bases. I think I might have some old blip markers that are 32. I don't know. I have to look. I think I do have some bigger sets. Okay, so they came from below. Each time a Genestealer cult's unit from your army is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements until the end of your next fight phase. So the end of your next fight phase. Yeah, so that's the end of the turn, really. Weapons. All weapons, including melee, have sustained hits and ignore cover. And I'm not excited about the ignore cover stuff. I mean, I guess it's nice, but cover is so weak in this edition. I don't think it matters. Maybe there's an interaction I'm not understanding, but it's just, as far as I know, it's just you ignore +1 to the cover if the guy even bothered to take it. And I think Marines don't even get it. You know, I think power armor or something like that's not even able to benefit from cover. But sustained hit 1 is exploding 6s. As far as I know, there is no way to get like a 5+ crit in this army, so it's just exploding 6s. You might be able to do this with a guard unit if you put them in strategic reserves. I'm not sure how useful it would actually be, but that's something to keep in mind. I have to compare a guard unit to see if they're better than neophytes, because that's the big thing. Our only real shooting army, or our only real shooting unit, are neophytes in a truck, and Ridge Runners might be a shooting unit. I think they're really probably going to be more of a support unit. We'll see. A lot of that always, you know, just to comment, a lot of that always counts on points, right? Whether it's a shooting unit or not depends on its damage efficiency for the points. Yeah, that unit might be able to put out 5 mortal wounds and maybe 20 wounds, but if it's a 1,500 point unit, is that really worth anything? I don't think so. All right. So our stratagems, unquestioning loyalty. Essentially what this does is it makes it so a character pretty much can't be killed. I think this will be helpful for a Jackal Alphas The Jackal Alphys has a buffing ability, but she's not a lone operative, and she does not have stealth. Lone operative makes it so the unit cannot be targeted unless it's within 12 inches of you, and stealth is -1 to hit. So the Jackal Alphys can only lead a unit of Jackals, and I do not like the idea right now of giving her a unit of Jackals just to keep her from dying from her relatively weak buff. I think I would rather just use Unquestioning Loyalty and maybe just have some chaff next to her. Maybe I'd give some heavy weapons to them or something. Although I think Neophytes got screwed hard in this edition. I think they're very, very bad. I could be wrong. Could be because everything's kind of weaker, supposedly. But who knows? So that's a possibility. Okay, Coordinated Trap. This is 2 CP. That worries me because I think we're going to be CP starved this edition. 2 CP was always kind of a lot, but there's implications that we have even less CP now. So you pick 2 Genestealer cults in your army that have not shot or fought, and they get +1 to wound as long as they're shooting at the same target. The Nexos, the guy with the little artillery table, he lets you use a stratagem a second time on your unit, on his unit. I wonder if I could use Coordinated Trap a second time. Because you actually have to select 2 Genestealer cults units. I'm not sure what the interaction would be. Because it says he can only use it on his unit. But if you could double it up, that means for 2 CP, you've got 4 units with +1 to wound. And of course, +1 to wound I think is pretty powerful. You know, you get a unit of 5+ wounders wounded on 4+, or even 4+ to 3+. It can be pretty good. Tunnel crawlers. This is just a 3-inch deep strike. Generally, the only reason you use this is if the enemy's screening you really hard. They're trying to stop you from deep striking and shooting something. The reason I'm not so excited about this is what I used to use for this is Colt shotguns. So I used to do Colt shotguns and then Inescapable Decay. So all of my shotguns and flamers and potentially even heavy stubbers would just poof up and just blast whatever they had nearby. Set up so they had Old Coat Ambush, which was +1 to hit, +1 to wound, ignore cover. And they just evaporate whatever they saw. I think that I don't think we have that kind of power. In fact, I think what I would almost do with this is maybe even just hand flamers. I think metamorphs can still get full hand flamers. I have no idea how many points they'd be, but maybe you just throw out the hand flamers and go crazy. I don't know yet. Like I say, a lot of it'll depend on points, but I'm just not sure how good this is going to be. The one thing I can think of, somebody gives us a free heroic intervention, but I think it is the Patriarch. No, who gives us a free heroic intervention? It could be an item, actually. I think it's an item. Let's see here. Focus of Adoration. Okay, so that's the one thing I could see is I would want to know how that would interact with heroic intervention, because potentially You could use the adoration for a free heroic intervention. I just don't know if you can do a heroic intervention if you're not allowed to charge. Why don't we just look? File Explorer. These are all funny names, so let's see. Sisters? Nope. Here's the rules. It's the black PDF. All right, let's look at heroic intervention. I think it's towards the end. Okay, it's before this. Aircraft, tables. I'm so glad they still have line of sight blocking terrain. It's ruins, by the way. I thought it was gone, and then I read ruins properly and realized it was not gone. All right, let's read heroic intervention. I'm sure you can't heroic intervene if you can't charge, but let's look. When your opponent's charge phase, just after an enemy unit ends a charge move. Oh, you're never going to be able to do that with Call to Ambush in the first place, but I do think that you can't. That would be eligible to declare a charge. Okay, so the timing is bad, and you couldn't do it anyway because they're not eligible to declare a charge. But like I say, so it really just depends on if you've got a bad shooting unit that you need to get into place. The other thing I guess it could be for is it's my movement phase, so it could be also used to contest an objective. You can just throw 10 bodies down on an objective, and there's almost no way to keep them out with that 3-inch deep strike. And then another unit could clean them up. They need to be more than 3 inches away. So maybe you can also manipulate, with your charger, you could also maybe manipulate things so that the enemy brings models within range of that unit. Maybe you could, if an enemy's defending an objective, you throw down your tunnel crawlers, and then you have a unit on the table, hopefully, that charges that unit, and maybe you set it up in such a way that the tunnel crawlers will get pulled into the combat by the enemy consolidating into them. The other thing is you might be able to use tunnel crawlers to protect a unit from a melee unit, perhaps. Maybe the opponent gets their whole turn. They can move around them, or they can just shoot them. So I think really just trying to bait the unit in somehow might be the best. One with the darkness. Got nothing bad to say about this. Stealth. Can't be selected if it's within 12 inches. That's another thing that could maybe save the Jackal Alphas. Or keep an infantry unit protected. I think that's going to be a valuable stratagem. How long does it until the end of the phase? So, end of the shooting phase. That could be very vital for keeping a more vulnerable unit of like pure strains alive. And by the way, pure strains have 2 wounds now. I don't know how vulnerable they actually are going to be in game. Perfect ambush. I think this is an excellent stratagem. And it's a good target for the Nexos. Doing this twice for only 1 command point, having 2 units get this. So it's a Genestealer Cult, arrived from reserve this turn and has not been selected to shoot yet. They get +1 ballistic skill and +1 armor pen. We can also get bonus armor pen from another source. So potentially you're looking at 3+ ballistic skill and an additional -2 armor pen. That's not bad on a shooting unit. Keep in mind, I believe this works on guard, arriving from strategic reserves. So, and I almost think that's where it's going to get used. I have to look at an infantry squad, but the neophyte weapon loadout is so bad. I think you'd rather have guardsmen do this kind of stuff. But I have to look. Okay, but I think perfect ambush could be very good. It just depends on if neophytes can hold the day or not. We already talked about One with Darkness. All right, Return to the Shadows is kind of a whatever ability to me. Up to 2 battle line or 1 infantry unit. Remove them from the battlefield when end of your opponent's turn. I don't like that. They can't be in close combat range, and they have to have deep strike. So what I don't like about that is, since it's the end of your opponent's turn, it's like, I don't know. It's good for repositioning them, I guess. Like that could be useful for one stratagem. Just pick them up off one side of the table and then bring them in anywhere else. But as like a defense or something like that, it's not very useful. Strong for that. Prowling Agent, I've never thought much of Prowling Agent. I've never thought much of this ability either. You have it in Age of Sigmar. It's a standard stratagem, and 90% of the time, if people use it, it never does anything. So I don't think much of it. Inscrutable Cunning, I don't think matters too much. My understanding is it's a max of 1 CP ever in a round. And neophytes kind of do this. I mean, they need to be on an objective, but there's home objectives. It makes sense for neophytes to be on objectives, so I don't know. Meticulous Planner, I think, is one of the good ones. This is just, it increases the cost of your opponent's stratagem by 1 permanently, once for battle. This is the old stratagem for, I think, four-armed emperors who were playing in this, I forget what you call them, formation or whatever. And here's Focus of Adoration, free heroic intervention, even if you've already used it. Not sure how useful it is, but it could be useful. We'll have to see. I'm not exactly sure how you'd use it. Before it was just to stop people from excluding a character from a combat. Now, normally, characters are in the units, and I don't know that. I think if people were going to charge, they would charge that unit for the strike first to try and take it out or bring it down a notch, especially if they know you've got heroic intervention or a free heroic intervention. It's the old cover. All right. So I'm going to go a little out of order. So we're going to look at potential buffs first. So I don't like the aberrants still. They may be okay. It really depends on their points. So Feel No Pain, 4+ for the Abominant, and he'll give these guys sustained hit 1. But what we also get for them is the Biophagus gives lethal hits. Now he can lead any of our battle line, but he can also hit aberrants. And even though aberrants are kind of a high strength unit, not having to roll a wound roll is very nice. So think about it like this. I don't know the exact interaction, but the way it's worked in the past is if they have sustained hit 1, lethal hit, they roll a crit, they should get 2 auto wounds. If that's the case, you can see they're putting out a lot of, they should be vehicle killers. They always were vehicle killers, in my opinion. I was able to wreck some vehicles with them pretty bad. But now it's like, you're rolling 20 attacks, let's say, and how many of those are going to be critical hits? 3 or 4 maybe? So that'd be 8 auto wounds on a vehicle at -2 Ren, 3 damage. That'd be pretty rough. You're kind of over investing. I don't think much of this hulking bodyguard. -1 to wound if the strength is higher than their toughness. Feel no pain 4. I'd have to see these on the table. You could be yelling at me saying they're the toughest thing since grotesques, but I'm not certain. I would have to play them, and I'd have to see what their points were before I said anything like that. So, like I say, not super impressed. I think people have already been getting pretty excited about them. So, we're getting out of order here. We'll just go over. So, Ridge Runners. I've always kind of liked Ridge Runners. I never really used them in the past, but I think they're a cool model and a cool unit. So they have a scout move still, always nice. So this is the big one here. So Crossfire. You can select a unit that this unit is hit. Until the end of the phase, friendly Genestealer Cults units that make an attack on that unit improve their armor penetration by 1. The enemy can only be affected by this ability once per phase. So that's pretty cool. That right there, you can help your guard unit out. You can help your neophytes out. That was a very powerful ability in the old book to get +1 rend to rend 0 weapons. Your last gun suddenly get rending. But I don't know how it's going to be in this iteration, in this edition, but I think it's a good buff. You can only take units of 2 Ridge Runners. Flare launchers are, I think they're stealth, and you might also not be able to get targeted outside of 12. I can't remember. Spotter, 3+ ballistic skill seems like it might be nice. If you're actually expecting to get damage out of them, I'd probably use that. And then the Survey Augur lets you get ignores cover for a Genestealer Cults unit. You get to select 1 unit hit, and Genestealer Cults also get ignore cover. So that's interesting because it would stack with the Crossfire if you wanted to, or you could do it on 2 different targets, is the way I'm understanding it. If I say shot 2 different units, hit both of them, I could do 1 on one and 1 on the other. But it also stacks. So if you've got a unit in cover, not only does everybody get +1 rend, but they ignore their cover. So what I like about this so much, I don't know how powerful it's necessarily going to be, but there is no requirement for the unit to have been set up this turn. This is something you can have on the table with on the table units and get some synergy out of. So I like it. Like I say, I can't make any judgments about these weapons because we don't know how many points they are, and I honestly don't even know how the upgrade system is going to work. Do I still pay for weapons? Are we going Age of Sigmar where they're all free? I actually think that's a possibility because most units have no options. Most units lost all of their options. So I think it's possible we're going to get free upgrades. So we don't know what this stuff's going to look like yet. But like I say, that crossfire and survey auger will also help out our guard units. That's nice. What's the Achilles looking like right now? 3 shots, so the unit would have 6 of them. Strength 9, -2, 3 damage. But it has almost no meaning to me. I mean, even a damn Ridge Runner is toughness 7. My understanding is all vehicles had their toughness go through the roof. So 9 might not necessarily even be a decent wound roll for a vehicle. Hurt a Terminator real bad, right? Each shot that got through the Terminator armor would be a dead Terminator. So maybe that's something to think about. So I'm excited about them. Acolyte hybrids. So if we look, so first off, let's look at their rule. Reroll hit rolls of 1, and if the enemy's on an objective, they reroll wounds of 1 also. Not bad. No complaints. They have kind of an okay number of attacks. Pretty much any character can be attached to them, so you can give them strike first, free stratagem, reroll hits for the Primus. So reroll hits and +1 wound and stuff like that would be pretty nice. Let's see here. You can put a Biophagus on them for lethal hits potentially. I don't know how much they care about it. Icon Ward gives them 5+ feel no pain. So, like I said, there's some potential for them. What stuck out to me is having mining tools have been all combined into one. They look pretty nasty. Again, they're Terminator killers probably. Marine killers probably, right? They should be wounding them on 2+. Reroll 1s on most of this stuff. So, we'll see. The Cult Ambush, or the Cult Icon, I don't know if these are going to be free or if they're going to be expensive. In the last book, they were ridiculously expensive. But we were playing, I even forget what they're called now, those little campaigns, the escalation campaigns or whatever, Path to Glory, I think. So we were playing power level, so I got them all for free, and even then I didn't do shit. So these ones do, in the reinforcement step of your movement phase, you can return up to D3 destroyed models to the unit. If the unit's within range of an objective marker, you can return 3 models to the unit instead. The reason why this kind of is lame is the unit's probably dead, right? According to this, and I don't know, so you gotta keep in mind, in Age of Sigmar, they put weird unit comps on stuff, but it's not the real unit comp. The real unit comp is in the points. So I don't know if that's how this is. I think that is how it is because it says 4 to 9 Acolyte Hybrid, so it can be a 5-man or a 10-man. Let's double check their profiles, make sure, nope, still 5+ save, 1 wound. You can kill a 10-man of these, no problem. A damn unit of guardsmen with last guns could kill a 10-man of these. So that's why I don't have a lot of faith on the icons, is I think they're just gonna get wiped out too easy, and there's so much good anti-infantry now. I don't see them doing much. Can everybody have a hand flamer? Yeah, everybody can have hand flamers. Same thing with the metamorphs. And 2 per 5. So a unit of 10 can have 4 special weapons, and you either give them a demo charge or mining tools. Potentially you could have 4 demo charges, and you can do tunnel crawlers and just huck all 4 freaking demo charges out. That'd be pretty devastating, right? What would that be? 4 times 3 is 12. So 4d6 plus 12. 5 plus ballistic skill. So that's pretty bad. I think you can give them +1 ballistic skill, though. We're already using a stratagem for freaking tunnel crawlers, though, so I don't know. But just keep that in the back of your mind, is potentially you can get them up to a 4+. I think. I'm pretty sure you can get them, or just give them reroll hits for the Primus or something. They already reroll ones. So I don't know. That's potential. Just load them down with demo charges. If you're going to play the trade game, just load them down with demo charges. And you always get a cult marker or an ambush marker from them because they're a battle line. They may not come back, but you always get the marker at least. If you wanted to be real stupid, I guess what you could do is, it's dumb, but you could keep them absolutely hidden, and then return to the shadows at the end of your opponent's turn, assuming they came back from cult ambush, and then perfect ambush them or whatever, or tunnel crawler them again. So you could, I imagine a cycle happening where, let's say, okay, so turn 1, you tunnel crawler, throw their crap, they die. Opponent's turn 2, you put them back on the table, hopefully completely hidden from anything your opponent can see. You suck them up your opponent's turn 2, and then you bring them back on your turn, tunnel crawlers. That's not even that bad. Shit. I don't know. That seems kind of good. I'm not gonna lie. That seems like it's got potential. The suicide bombers. I could be missing something, but I think that could be potentially pretty strong. Because you're sending them out to die. But I think all those demo charges would, especially. I don't think you'd have the CP to spare to give them +1 ballistic skill. But if you did, it'd be really bad. But they have so many shots. I think maybe the 5+ is still fine. You need tunnel crawlers because it's only a 6-inch shot. Hazardous? I don't remember what hazardous does. Oh, hazardous kills them. Hazardous is ones to kill the model that threw it, which I think we don't care about. In fact, actually, your opponent might be inclined to leave them alive, which could be to your advantage also. That's very interesting. I like the sound of that. Icon word, this guy has like the stupidest ability once per game. If an opponent kills one of your ambush markers, you can set it up within 12 inches of this guy as long as it's still 9 inches away from the enemy. Dumb. Sorry, it's dumb. But he does give 5+ feel no pain to whoever he's attached to. And I'm not sure who's going to benefit from that, if anybody. But I'm probably not going to take this guy. I didn't use him before, to be honest. Jackals. Oh, you know what? Hang on. You know what we forgot? So no cult ambush, which is kind of what I suspected. But these guys have it. This is the thing that they need to be within 6 inches of the end. Demolition run seems interesting to me. I think it's not very many mortal wounds in reality. Maybe you got a unit of 4, maybe 8. So maybe 2 to 4 mortal wounds. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me. Maybe it'll kill a character or something. Maybe you can just ace some little character. But yeah. And I don't know how the weapon loadouts are going to work out for them, to be frank. Again, that's something I'm just going to have to see when the points come out so that I actually know the real value of these weapons. Right now, they're just kind of meaningless to me. Again, here's the unit comp. 4 to 8 jackals, 1 to 2 wolf quads. Okay, wolf quads do have a separate stat line. They've got 4 wounds. Saves got worse, I think. So I think these used to be 4+, -1 to hit all the time. Now they have no negatives to hit and a worse save. So I don't know how I feel about jackals. Biophages, lethal hits. That's really all he does. Except, hang on, this alchemical familiar. I thought it only affected him once per battle. When the bearer's unit is selected to fight, the bearer can use its alchemical familiar. If it does, until the end of the phase, melee weapons have anti-infantry 2+. So keep in mind, if you use sustained hits, so actually no, so you can get sustained hits, lethal hits. Oh, but that doesn't matter for this. I don't know. It's all right. And his weapons have anti-infantry, of course. He's the homunculus of the Genestealer cults. He can lead aberrants, acolytes, metamorphs, neophytes, and then he's got a special rule. Many of the characters have this. Many of the little like lieutenants, where they can still join battle line even if there's a Primus, Magus, or acolyte. I can ward it in there. This guy's always sucked. So he does not have lone operative or stealth. So you're going to want to attach him to a unit, I would think. But -1 from battle shock tests within 12 inches, and if they fail, they suffer a mortal wound. I don't know about that. He'd have to be pretty cheap for me to want it, and then of course can't set up within 12 inches of this model. I don't think that's that relevant. It's this model, not even this unit. The Rock Grinder still looks like a competent little dreadnought. I haven't compared it to other dreadnoughts, but it does have sustained hits, 6 attacks, good weapon skill, good strength and damage. And then it can do a chariot charge. Gets mortal wounds when it hits. Please, nobody wet the bed over this firing deck. It's always had it. Like I say, we're not going to know the value of a lot of these weapons until we know the points. But, you know, a 12-inch moving dreadnought should still be decent. I don't know how tough this is. Toughness 10, save 3+. We'll have to see. It's just 1 rock grinder. And of course it does not have ambush. I don't think any of the vehicles will. I think the only thing it's not infantry that has is just the bikes. But I wanted to check. Again, don't wet the bed over this. It's just because this can contain 10 guys plus the hero plus the lieutenant. That's why it's 12. It's technically always had that ability. I'm only underlying it because there was some people on the internet really freaking out that it had firing deck 12, and it's like it's not new, and it's not even like you can have two good people on the firing deck. It's just going to be like pistols from characters. So what do we still have? Demolition Cache, of course. Heavy Stubber, Rapid Fire 3. So if this is within, gosh, what's half of 36? 18 inches. It's got 6 shots. And it's still got the twin autocannons. That's a decent shooting profile in my opinion. Twin linked, so reroll wounds for whatever it's worth. And I don't really like this rule, but it's a nice rule to have, and I am not going to complain. It's a little complicated. So essentially, if this thing shoots and hits a unit, you can make it so that a unit that just disembarked from this truck gets to reroll wounds. And it's just for the shooting phase. So what I don't like about this is you don't want to disembark your units in your truck. Reroll wounds is awful nice, especially when you're wounded on 5s and 6s, but I don't know. I just don't know about it. I'm just not sure how I feel about that. I'd rather keep them in and probably not reroll wounds. I mean, I guess yeah. So for perfect ambush, they need to set up from reserves. You can't just say that you're setting them up from the truck and give them perfect ambush. But gosh, so I don't know. I don't like the rule. It's a very powerful ability, but you're kind of setting your boys up for failure. I think it would have been it's probably overall better just to leave them in the truck, but I don't know. I got to get it on the table. I got to see the points, and we'll get an idea of what that can actually do. All right, so you can have up to 6 of these guys. They cannot transport a patriarch. Metamorphs. Notice that they have like no rending anymore. And for some reason, fighting on death has turned into like the most premium ability in this edition. So these guys have it easy. They can fight on death on a 3+. Most units can only do it on a 4+. It's crazy. I have no idea. It's not that powerful an ability. Why does it have this big restriction? These guys have double profiles for their weapons. So they have kind of like an anti-marine profile and an anti-guardsman profile for an extra couple of attacks. They also get icons. Not sure about these guys. Got to see the points. They might be a better melee unit than the Acolyte hybrids. Or a better anti-infantry melee unit, I'm not sure. But max 10 man, of course. They can take hand flamers. The alphas. So she has an ability that lets you reroll hit rolls of 1 against the target that she hits. And if you look, she's got Scout 9, no stealth, no operative, so it's kind of like I don't know what to think about her. I don't know if rerolling hits of 1 is even worth bringing her at all. She doesn't really buff a I guess she's got shoot and fade, right? So you can I guess just play out the edge of a ruin and put her out, shoot, hide her back, whatever. I don't know. I don't care. She can lead jackals, and that's what I'm saying is jackals are so short range and she's so long range and I don't think she's good at close range. That I just don't see why you would want to put a unit of jackals on her just to keep her alive. I don't think it's even worth it. Keller Morph is a piece of garbage. He always has been. He was in the last book too. I don't care how much meme stupid crap you used to be able to do with him. Locus, he gives a unit fight first. It's potentially decent. I'm not sure. I don't necessarily see the value of it. It's so easy to shoot our units off the table. If you know we've got fight first, you'd be better off just shooting us with pistols with your Khorne Berserkers, right? I don't know the exact order things are done in this edition. I didn't read the rules deeply enough, but I do know that in the last edition, to fight first units, the opponent gets to choose the first unit. So you'd be kind of shooting yourself in the foot charging these guys. You'd just be better off shooting them off the table. So like I say, I don't have a lot of faith in this guy. I think it's an interesting ability, the fights first ability. But I think we still get fights first when we charge. And these, like I say, there's nothing in this entire book that's hard to shoot off the table. So I just don't see where the fight first would help. Unless you survived a round of freaking close combat and you had another round of it and you wanted to make sure you fought first. But yeah, I don't know. We don't have any way to stop retreats either, right? So why wouldn't the opponent retreat? Maybe because he didn't know he could. That's the only reason. Magus. She has mind control still. Psychic just feels so weak this edition because there's so much anti-psyker in the game, and then the psychic abilities are so weak. This one's not. 12-inch range, so good luck getting her in range. But on a 2 through 5, -1 for that unit to shoot. And on a 6, they just can't shoot at all. Psychic Familiar, you can double the range of your mind control. Oh, that's nice. So it's a 24-inch mind control. You know, that's okay. Again, I think it'll depend on the points. But really, that's all she is a almost once per game mind control. All right, so here's where we get to the thing that makes me big sad. So again, some of this is just going to depend on the points. But if we look, so we can have 2 special weapons and 2 heavy weapons per 10. We can have up to a 20-man neophyte hybrid unit. So this might be a unit that's worth putting an icon on. And look at this. Their icon always returns 3, and if you're on an objective, it's D3 plus 3. You know, maybe you can throw some stealth on them. So maybe they're not. They might be resilient. Like I say, that just depends on their actual stats. But what I don't like is so their heavy weapons are 5 pluses, and I just don't think you're going to have very many opportunities to not move with them. Seismic cannon, and then if you, well, this is the other half of it, right? Look at these ranges. 24 inches. 24 inches on 5 plus heavy weapons. Like, how are you actually going to get them in range, stood around for a turn, to even have a 4 plus to hit? I mean, if you perfect ambush them, there'll be 4 pluses. But oof, 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 oof. I guess if they've got a magus, they also have reroll. 4+ reroll isn't that bad. So maybe there's some potential there, right? Maybe there's something going on there. And remember, you can get up to +2 rend on these guys. So mining laser would be -5, which I think would be pretty crazy. But the heavy seismics would be -3 potentially, easily -2. So we'll have to see. The stubber, I think, is actually not a bad option. They're just rapid fire, so you could actually get them up to 3+ if you give them +1 ballistic skill. And if you're within 18 inches, that is 6 shots per heavy stubber. And we have grenade launchers. You know, they're always all right. Flamers, I'd probably take the flamers. But I guess what I'm a little upset to see is we lost shotguns. I'm not sure if hybrid firearms are going to do the trick with that strength 3. We can put some serious rend on them, but I think the strength 3 is just gonna bring them down. I think if they were strength 4, I'd have much different feelings about them. But maybe we have enough strength 4 shooting from other things. So let's see, we would have, is it 2 per 10? Yeah, so it's 2 per 10. So we'd have potentially 4 heavy stubbers, so that's 12 heavy stubber shots, and 4 flamers. 12 plus 4d6. So would that be, that's probably, so that's maybe 24 strength 4 shots. I don't know. I'll have to just math it out or see it on the table. Maybe they still have the potential. But, you know, I'm talking about 20 mans, not 10 mans. Like, I'm going to have to see it in game with the points before I know. But could be some potential here, but I'm not certain about it. I think that these hybrid firearms are going to hold them back. And it's so much harder to get them properly buffed. It's so much harder to get them to where they're really lethal. This cult infiltration ability looks stupid. You can move cult ambush markers around. It looks like you can actually stack this too. So if you look at battlefield analysis, you can't, no matter how many Nexus you have, you can only do this once. But cult infiltration, it's by the model, so I think that actually stacks. I think that's potentially a good. Patriarch can only lead pure strains. He is our epic hero. No stealth. Light from beyond. What's infiltrator actually do? I feel kind of silly for not knowing. Is it down or up? I think it's up. It's right before these. Set up anywhere more than 9 inches away from the enemy. Okay. Alright, so I'm not sure how you would use them. I guess you'd probably be best putting them outside of 12 because they have an 8-inch move. That means they've only got 4 inches to charge. So if you put them outside of 12, you could put one with the shadows on them potentially. If but your opponent could move. But if you go first, your opponent's going to be in big trouble. We're just going to get an alpha strike from these guys. Cosmic Horror, whatever. Once per battle, at the start of the fight phase, this model can use its familiar. Till the end of the phase, double the range of Cosmic Horror. Whatever. This makes, this is devastating wounds for the twin linked, so reroll wounds. They've got lightning claws. So we're going to skip you for now, and we're going to go straight to Pierce Train. So Pierce Trains are 2 wounds, 5+ invulnerable save. I'm not certain that they are, I'm not certain that they're very easy to destroy. I think they're actually going to be a little hard to destroy. Which would be good for them. 2+ weapon skill, 4+ -2. So pretty dangerous profile, I think. It would be hurtful for poor old Marines. But let's go back to him. Does this guy have run and charge? It does not look like it. I don't know how that interacts. I don't know if they lose their run and charge. I don't know if they lose Swift and Deadly if they take a Patriarch. But they probably do. It'll depend on how that interaction works. If they just get, if you just use the rule if the unit has it, or if they all need to have it to benefit. That'll depend on, like I say, the rules for joining units, and I'm just not sure about it. Primus. So leader deep strike, 5+ invulnerable save. The needle pistol, it's only 1 shot. It is anti-infantry 2+, so I mean that's something, right? No AP. Ignores cover for some reason. I don't know why. And then the toxin injector claw is 2 extra attacks, 2+, ignore anti-infantry. Like I say, I think he's a pretty pathetic character, but what he does really good is he gives us reroll to hits. So you just attach him for reroll hits. Decoys and misdirection. So maybe you'd put him on the suicide bomber squad, but then that would only work once. You can put 3 additional units into strategic reserves. You really need to know how you lose the game with not having models on the table, though, for that. I'm not sure how the rule works exactly in 40k right now. Too new to the rules. If you lose instantly, if all your models are gone, even if you have models in reserve, that's potentially very dangerous. When do you do this? After both players have deployed their armies, select up to 3 units from your army and redeploy them. Do we know who's going first yet? Let's look at the default mission. Example, battlefields, aircraft. Muster armies, read objectives, create the battlefield, determine attacker and defender, declare formations, deploy armies, determine first turn. Each mission will tell you how to determine which player has the first turn. Okay, so that is done after deployment. Let's see if they give us an example. Declare formations, roll off, yeah. So you don't know who's going first. I think this could be extraordinarily powerful if you knew who was going first before you pulled the units back, because then you could put an alpha striking Patriarch or alpha striking Genestealer cult units first, Breel strains. And if you knew you weren't going first, you could just pull them back into reserve. I don't really know the use of this right now. I mean, you can kind of use it to try and trick your opponent into deploying badly, maybe. But I don't think much of it, frankly. You'd need a pretty dumb opponent to fall for that. I think most opponents would just know after the first gotcha that you can pull 3 units back, and at that point, I think it might be dangerous to pull them back. Because how much would you really have on the freaking table at that point if you used all of them? I don't know. And besides just trying to bait a bad deployment out of your opponent, I'm just not sure what the use is unless you just wanted to really have like a lot more units in deep strike for some reason. You might want to. But so I'm not sure about that. Reductus Saboteur, she has Lone Operative and Stealth. Infiltrator as well. So I think she could be interesting. Planted Explosives, I'm not sure about that. So here's the thing. You can infiltrate her within 9 inches. So that means if an enemy wants to avoid planted explosives, this happens at the end of their move, they would have to move away from her and actually move out of shooting range of her. They can't shoot her with the lone operative if they're outside of 12. So it's kind of like, maybe it's a little bit of a double bluff, right? If people stay out of explosives range, they are also out of range to shoot her. I don't know how I feel about that, but it might be interesting. Free grenades on her, for what it's worth. She does not have Cult Ambush. But I think you can still perfect ambush her. So that's another thing you could potentially do. This is page 47. Let's look at that real quick. Genestealer cult unit that arrived from reserve and is not shot yet. Oh, but I don't need to do that. What was I really looking for? Tunnel crawlers. You could do that if you really wanted to. I don't know why you would. It is arriving from deep strike. So you can deep strike her within 3 inches. So what that would mean is your opponent, I don't know if it'd be worth it. I don't know if you could scare somebody that bad into, but potentially you could deep strike her within 3 inches. You get a free grenade. You get a demolition charge. It's a 2+ demolition charge. And your remote explosives. And then potentially you could plant the explosives on the enemy unit as well, because they're going to have trouble escaping her if she's already within 3 inches. She seems like a fun piece. I definitely would really want to try her out. I don't know how effective she'll be. I think remote explosives, I like that it's at least 24 inches. Indirect fire and blast. Strength 5 could be a good anti-infantry weapon. I'm not sure. Could be junk. But I'd like to try her out. I don't think she's super powerful, but I'd like to check her out. And then the Sanctus I think is kind of trashy. He's an anti-psyker. And he gets devastating wounds against his target. So that means like he's just you pick a psyker and he's just gonna kill them. I actually think the way to go with him is probably the biodagger and maybe to infiltrate him. But that biodagger, oh, it's anti-infantry 3+. That's interesting. I kind of wish it was still anti-psyker because there's so many psychic characters in the game. Each time this model makes an attack that targets its prey, select one enemy unit. Oh, so it can be any unit. He could be pretty nasty, I guess, maybe. I'm not sure. He's only got 6 attacks. They'd be 2+, and they crit on 3+s, so you'd be throwing out a lot of mortal wounds, I think. Yeah, I don't know. But I know we went through that pretty fast, but to reiterate, my big thing is I think the strength of this army is actually riding on the back of neophyte hybrids. I really believe that. There is a lot that can buff neophyte hybrids, but I'm not sure if they have the punch even with all this buffing, and we don't know how many points they're going to be. They could be still very expensive. They were pretty overpriced before. You needed to use their buffs and synergies to make them worthwhile. It's like, I liked the balance because in the last book, what it felt like was if you weren't using your synergies properly, you were overpaying a lot. If you used your synergies properly, it was like they were a steal. That's how good the synergies were. And I would like to see that again because it was actually very difficult to get those synergies. And it made for a very compelling game. I really enjoyed it. But in their current incarnation, like I say, I'm not sure if the neophytes are there. You can play mechanized pretty well. I've got to figure out exactly how mechanized interact in their vehicle. Because I think with firing deck, it's something weird, like it counts as the vehicle shooting. And even though I haven't seen it in the heavy weapon rules, I've heard people talk about vehicles just don't get the +1 to hit. Well, let's check this out. This is a long, rambly video. It's not like I expect shooting. Let's just do a Control F for firing deck. Right. Yeah, thanks for showing up with file, huh? Well, that tells you how we're not going to find. All right. How about deck? Firing deck, here we go. Some transport models have firing deck X. Each time such a model is selected to shoot in the shooting phase, you can select up to X models embarked within it. Then, for each of those embarked models, you select one ranged weapon that embarked model is equipped with. Until that transport model has resolved all its attacks, it counts as being equipped with all the weapons you select in this way, in addition to other weapons. So essentially, it's going to have something like what? Well, it's just going to have all the weapons they have, if I'm understanding this correctly. For each model, select one weapon that the model has, yeah. Now, can somebody help me out with where this heavy weapon thing comes from? Let's see here, embark transports. We're going to just do a quick scan because, like I say, I've had a number of people claim. Here we go. Big guns never tire. This is probably it. Monster and vehicle units are eligible to shoot their controlling players at shooting phase, even while they are engaged. Nope, this is definitely not it. Subtract 1 to hit if you do that. Okay. So locked in combat, you can't shoot, of course. Yeah, I don't know. Mortal wounds, feel no pain, deadly demise. No saving throws. So mortal wounds are very nice still. So I'll just show you guys. Maybe I didn't read heavy thoroughly enough. Weapons with heavy in their profile are known as heavy weapons. Each time an attack is made with such a weapon, if the attacking model's unit remains stationary this turn, add 1 to the hit roll. I don't see anything like vehicles don't get this or anything. Yeah. Who knows? I've missed things previously, so I'm not willing to say everybody else is wrong, and I'm right on this yet, but I think you still get +1 to hit for heavies if you don't move your vehicles. That would be good-ish, I guess, maybe. Okay, stratagems, strategic reserves. Let's see here. Is there any just general vehicle weapons or vehicles? It's pistols. It's big guns never tire. Yeah, I could have missed it, but I don't think I did. I think vehicles get +1 ballistic skill if they don't move. It's possible that's wrong, but I'll figure that out later. So, like I say, I think Genestealer cults, I think that I have made assaults out of trucks before, so I know that I can still do that. I have done a lot of work with shooting out of trucks before. A lot of this will depend on what it looks like on the table for me. Is the additional rend going to make a lot of these weapons good or better than they ought to be? How realistic is it to expect +1 ballistic skill from a perfect ambush? How often am I actually going to be able to do that? If I do it, is it enough to get something devastating out of that unit? Or is it kind of a waste of my time? Is the unit's top end so low that even buffing it to heck and back isn't going to do anything? What do the points look like? Are any of the defensive buffs worth taking? I don't think they are, but they might be. Feel no pain could be worth taking. How are cult ambush markers actually going to be in game? I think we really don't know. I think Return to the Shadows and cult ambush markers is going to be really good. I don't think you lose with that. Besides spending a CP, it means you can put your marker in some stupid spot, return them to the shadows at your enemy's turn, and then actually properly deploy them on your next turn. Something I hadn't considered before. I think it's potentially worthwhile. So we'll see. I'm definitely going to give them a shot. I'm not going to doom and gloom it from the start. But we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to try them out in the new edition. I am going to be gone freaking to Nebraska for like a month here coming up. There's a Games Workshop out there. I was actually considering traveling with my Genestealer cults, but I don't know. It's a lot to bring. I think we're getting points tomorrow, so there's probably going to be a part 2 to this. I'm probably also going to go through one of the other armies we have in the house at a later time. But for now, I'm definitely interested in trying the Genestealer cults. I was less excited for them before I really sunk my teeth in. Now I'm starting to see maybe they've got some potential. We just got to see it on the table, and we got to see it against enemy units. We got to see the points. I think even if the points were crazy, I still think that I'd still have to see the buffs on the table to see what they looked like. The army formation stuff, I mean, I'm interested. Okay, so this is Ascension Day is the formation we're playing today. I'm interested to see what else we get and how it changes. How can you really change these guys? Do they perhaps have other variants that aren't made to have, they came from below and stuff? Who knows? But we'll see. There's a lot of jank in this edition so far. But since we don't have points, we don't know how that stuff falls out. I mean, I'm already seeing people talk about like, oh, dude, you just take like freaking 3 full units of Death Watch and you have 3 captains on them and then you add these other characters in. And I'm like, man, I don't remember anybody ever being able to take full 3 units of Death Watch. Like, they're always prohibitively expensive. At what point is it overkill, right? Okay, wow, you took out this unit of guardsmen. Good job. Like, maybe those points were better spent elsewhere, but we'll see. At some point, I might end up looking at Chaos more closely. Chaos Demons I might play. I loved Chaos Demons in 8th edition. I don't know what they're going to be like now. They actually have pretty nice looking cult ambush rules, frankly. But we'll see. All right. But without further ado, I'm going to sign out for now. If you watch this, hey man, give me your opinion on what I had to say if you even followed along. Um, or your thoughts on the edition. I know most people I know are crap in the bed that their faction is terrible. Um, I can see it's like they tried to put the power level down, which I think was a good thing. And whenever you do that, it's going to upset everybody that's playing because all their stuff got weaker. And everything else got weaker relative to them. But that's hard to see, especially when you hear about these crazy, like devastating anti combos coming out. Sometimes people just fixate on that and they don't see what they actually have. Um, but I like playing mechanized infantry also, and Genestealer Cults looks like it might be a decent mechanized infantry army. I played them mostly mechanized last edition, so maybe I'll still be very happy with them. We'll see.